We are closing out the third week of my birthday celebrations. Only one more week left to my birthday. Yay! Today we're going to talk about my favorite fantasy movie, The Lord of the Rings Trilogy. And yes, I'm counting them all as one movie, especially since Tolkien originally wrote the trilogy of books as all one book. It was his publisher that convinced him to break it up into 3. Back then, it would have been too expensive to make it all one book, and they didn't want the price of the book to be a barrier of entry to the younger readers. Wow, have times changed. Not only do they not care about excluding people according to what they do or do not have, you can have an entire series of 1,000-page books. No one cares how long the books are. They just want them to be finished. But with there being a 7-year gap between my first and second book, I can't complain about George R.R. Martin. Okay, so what makes the Lord of the Rings movies the best fantasy movie ever? Let's start with the writing and the adaptation. Peter Jackson, along with his writing partners Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, took the time and care to adapt all 3 books. They thought of the story they wanted to tell and decided what from the books was going to make it into the movie based on that story. They also went into the indices to pull out elements that didn't make it into the main plot, but that would fit into their story. By respecting the source material, but still telling their own story, they made something magical and special within itself. Next, let's talk about the special effects. They created an entire special effects workshops that works on special effects to this day.
To this day!
If you look in the credits of movies with a whole bunch of special effects and see what a workshop, that's them. They didn't just do CGI, they combined models with CGI.
The beauty and the awesome size and nature of the miniatures has given the film a wonderful reality and firmly makes you feel as though you've journeyed to Middle-earth.
Kind of like Jurassic Park, which still holds up today. They had really good practical effects alongside their CGI effects. And finally, let's talk about collaboration. Every single department worked hard to make these films come to life. They dedicated years of their lives, from about around 1998 to well past the 2003 release date of Return of the King. Because they joked on the extended versions DVD that Peter had won the Oscar for Return of the King, and he was still shooting scenes for the extended versions DVD. And yeah, wardrobe, props, special effects, makeup.
It's got certain sort of medieval ideas in this attached sleeve, which I actually think is a very practical thing as well. With the elves, I wanted the Rivendell elves to feel different to the Lothlorien elves. How we went about that was a slight colour shift.
Even the extras put in their all. For the scenes with horses, they would have horse owners come and just be the extras on top of their own horse. And if those owners were women, they just put beards on them and kept it moving.
Finding extras was always a challenge on Lord of the Rings. Particular challenge when you get into horseback riding. Often we wanted riders that had their own horses. These horse riders were a group of women who had gone through makeup and now were out having porridge in their beards. And so
the care and skill that went into every single department on this production. And that's from development, pre-production, production, and post-production. Made these movies one of the best fantasy movies of all time. I watched the extras on the extended version DVDs more than the movies. I love the process of making something so huge yet creative. I love the process of making this movie so much that it inspired me to make fantasy movies of my own. I had to accept that it was this type of storytelling that moved me the most. It was this type of storytelling that I always made sure to see in the theaters. And I wasn't even on board initially with Fellowship of the Ring. Not because I didn't think it was going to be good, it just wasn't on my radar. I remember when I first heard about Fellowship of the Ring and they mentioned that there was a connection between it and Bilbo Baggins of The Hobbit.
Thank you, my boy. You're a good lad, Frodo. I'm very selfish, you know.
I remember watching the cartoon and liking it. So I was like, cool, and promptly forgot about it. Then I received a gift card for my birthday that year and decided to use it to buy Fellowship of the Rings because I had no idea what else to buy. I sat down and watched the film, and when it got to the climax, I was yelling at the screen because even though it had been 3 hours, they hadn't made it to Mordor yet. And I was ready to see it to the end.
I made a promise, Mr. Frodo. A promise. Don't you leave him, Samwise Gamgee. And I don't mean to.
That's when I knew I was all in because I had no idea it was a trilogy and I was not prepared. So when The Two Towers came out, I dragged my sister to the theaters to watch it with me. And Helm's Deep was worth it alone.
What's happening out there?
Shall I describe it to you? Or would you like me to find you a box?
So it begins.
My favorite sequence being Legolas on the shield on the stairs. Then finally, there was Return of the King to tie it all together with 15 endings. And they didn't even show all the endings that happen in the book. My favorite part of Return of the King is when Aragorn and Arwen are reunited. It was a long time coming and a well-earned moment. When I think of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I think of Citizen Kane. For many years, whenever they would have a greatest movies of all time list, Citizen Kane was always number one. It stayed there, not just because it was a good movie, but because it was innovative. The cinematographer had to invent the equipment he needed in order to get the shots that Orson Welles wanted. And when a movie is not only well-made, well-written, but is also innovative, it makes a lasting impression. Do you think Lord of the Rings still holds up like Jurassic Park? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy my videos, please support my channel by subscribing, joining my membership, or donating through Ko-fi, Cashapp, or Super Thanks. Or you can purchase merch related to my fantasy novel or just buy my fantasy novel, The Fairy Princess. And let's continue the conversation in the Fairy Princess Facebook group. All links in the description. Thanks.